Well, hey everybody, it is a great opportunity to talk to you today about the Springfield Hellcat. They sent me one of these guys, and I know there's been several reviews on it already, but a lot of people have asked me, and Springfield Armory did send me this gun. And so I want to give you a couple of initial impressions on it. I'm going to give you a very brief review, put my first rounds through this gun, and then let you know what I think about it. So first of all, when I first got this gun, they sent it to me with the red dot on it, which I really like. You guys know that I'm a red dot shooter. It does have a good photoluminescent front sights as well, so it's got a decent one, although you notice here it's got the U-notch rear, and I'm not a fan of the U-notch rear, quite frankly, so not my favorite sight set, but it's a red dot, so that's cool. I'm fine on that. A couple other things that you're interested in is, of course, that this is one of these micro 9s, right? So really tiny package. If you put this and set it over a SIG P365, it's functionally the exact same size again. But it's just that it's not wider overall, but the grip is just a tiny bit beefier. And so honestly, it actually feels a little better in the hand. So this guy sent to me with two magazines. One's an 11 rounder and one's a 13 rounder. So the 13 rounder, woo, I dropped that one there almost. 13 rounder has a little bit of a finger extension. I put the pinky extension on the 11 rounder because if I don't have two hands, if my pinky can't get on the gun, I got problems. And if I had the flush mount here, my pinky's not going to get on that gun. And since we know that pinky is so important on this, I really want to have as much hand on the gun as I possibly can. So, I am going to have the extended magazine on there. It's not super long with it. It just adds a tiny bit, not at the rear of the gun, but a little bit at the front. So it shouldn't really affect its concealability much, but really affects how much of my hand I can get on there. So you can see with that extension on there, I could just barely get my pinky finger on there, so I should be able to shoot this gun pretty well. Now, you guys know that my pocket gun right now, if I've got a little action there, I don't own a 365, so I have a Glock 43 that I've used a whole bunch. This guy, if it runs adequately and effectively, could replace that, but not quite there yet. So next thing on this gun that, of course, we want to talk about, we got sights. We're going to see about reliability. A couple things I really like. Number one, does not have a grip safety. So this is not an XD. That grip safety on the XD is where most of my problems with the XD start. This does not have it. That's a positive thing. We also need to talk a little bit about the trigger, right? So it's got a flat trigger with of course, a trigger safety in there. And you see here, again, gun is, let me triple verify, yep, empty. So what you want to see here is as if I come here, it breaks right about 90 degrees. So with the over travel, it stops at 90 degrees, but it actually breaks, if you look, it breaks a little before 90. So we see here, it's probably at like right before, like 85. So not a ton of over travel on this. It feels like it breaks right at probably about 6 pounds, give or take. So that's perfectly acceptable from the perspective of a defensive firearm. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I found a problem with this gun. My wife was really interested in this gun, and I don't know if it's going to be a problem for a lot of people. It's not a problem for me personally. So I put my hand on this gun, and every time I got no problem whatsoever. Run the gun. Trigger runs great. I'm out here off the trigger, bang, trigger goes great. My wife grabbed a hold of this gun. She has little birdie hands. And she grabbed up in the top here, and here's the problem, is that at the top, you don't depress the trigger safety enough. So the trigger safety, if I'm up here on top, this gun is locked. It doesn't matter how hard I press it. My wife, when she went to go put her hand on the gun, she put it up here at the top. Now you notice if I get to the middle, because I got big beefy fingers, even if I'm all the way on the top, if I'm hugging the top of the trigger guard, you hear that, you might hear that little click. It kind of did close, but she could get it where it would not disengage and the gun was locked up. That's a big challenge. So I would encourage you before you buy one of these to go shoot it a little bit, or at least get one in your hand and make sure that that's not a problem for you. My wife has very thin fingers, and she was excited about this gun, but that instantly was a no-go for her. She was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not even talking about this gun anymore because I can't get the shoe to drop. Now, we fixed that in some respects by getting her to get way down at the bottom here, but if I'm at the bottom, I can kind of, it's maybe a bit long, and you can see if I don't get right on it completely, that this trigger shoe is a little bit finicky, quite frankly. So if I'm all the way at the bottom and I'm also kind of off to the side a little bit, nope, it's stuck up. Now, for me, I haven't had that problem. Every time that I've done this in dry fire, and I've probably put 20 minutes of dry fire in with this gun, it does just fine. I haven't had a problem. See the dot, press the shot. Yep, no worries, right? So it works fine for me with my bigger finger. If you got smaller fingers, it might not. That could be a problem. I'm not saying it makes this a no-go, but you know, it's something to think about. Now, I haven't shot this gun, haven't done any live firing of it yet, so let's take a few shots. I don't have a holster that works for it. They sent me a right-handed appendix holster. It's a hybrid. It's a piece of crap, and I'm not going to mention the brand of that hybrid holster, but all hybrid holsters are awful, and especially a hybrid appendix holster is awful, awful, and so no. But let's go take some shots with it. Okay, let's start with the 11 rounder. I haven't taken any live shots with this gun at all, so this is a first. You get to see the first shots through this gun. Let's just see about reliability and those kinds of things. I'm just standing here at the 7-yard line. Okay, let's get a feel for how this little guy operates. Get a feel for, yeah, I see it. Whew. So my first kind of 5-shot impression is I mean, it's a little gun, so the recoil is stout, right? I don't mind this little Shield RMSC. I'm a red dot shooter. I don't mind it. My first shot, I kind of anticipated a little bit, thinking that it might be a little heavy on the recoil, and it kind of is. So let's really grip it like we frickin' mean it. So I will say that with the extra little pinky mount here, my pinky finger on my strong hand tends to come off just a little bit. Now, you might say, well, John, grip it like a man, and that won't happen. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But there you go. I mean, you can see they're all still in the A zone, so I'm not really giving it a hard time here at 7 yards. Now, let's see if I add the extended mag, the 13-rounder. So I like that. You know, if you got a gun this small and I've got 13+1 in it, that's positive, man. That's pretty good. So let's see. Let's just kind of get a feel for... Yeah, man, I'm having a hard time holding... Okay, so, I mean, the gun ate a couple of magazines. I will say that just because of the length here, my hands are beefy, and you see here, what I want you to see is, notice that I only get a half a pinky on there. Now, I have big hands, right? So, you know, I wear size XL gloves, so that's one of the things that you might see is the fact that I'm just barely on this, and as the gun recoils, my pinky finger is tending to slip off a little bit. And so am I really excited about that? No, it might. Man, if I could have one that's just a tiny bit longer, then that would be good for me. And I get it. It's a pocket 9. And so you don't necessarily want that, you know, kind of extra length. But I would like just a tiny bit more length. Now, if you have smaller hands, that's not a problem for you, right? If you don't wear size XL gloves, may not be an issue for you. But the trigger shoe thing might be an issue for you if your hands are significantly smaller. So very initial shots. I mean, I've shot 24 rounds through the gun at this point. I'm going to have to shoot the heck out of this gun. But my very first thoughts are, I like the front sight. I don't really like the rear sight. I love the fact that it doesn't have a grip safety. The RMSC is great. I don't have a problem with that optic. I think it runs just fine. Gun, of course, is going to recoil in a stout manner. It's a little micro 9, and physics is physics, right? You light off a 9mm with this much weight, it's going to recoil more than my P30. The grip length for me is just a tiny bit short. Would it be okay? Yeah, probably. The trigger, and a lot of people are talking about the trigger. Man, I got to be honest with you. It's a standard stock trigger. I would like it to break a little bit more consistently. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's not terrible. You know, it breaks at that 90-degree angle that you can see, and so that's not terrible. Overall, I think it's a contender. I think that you've got kind of some of the same stuff that you had from, you know, a 6 Hour with the P365. That's a fine gun if you can get them to run correctly. We're seeing those fail more and more on the line. If you're carrying a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, this is a lot more capacity. We're seeing shields fail more and more on the line. We don't get a lot of Glock 43s on the line. When we do, they tend to run okay. I'm going to have to run some more rounds through that, but from an initial impressions perspective, I think it looks good. Its ergonomics are okay. I am having a hard time with the pinky. My wife was having a hard time with the trigger shoe. Where does that go? So I think her hands are way smaller than average. My hands are bigger than average. So if your hands are average, probably won't have either one of those problems. But if you're on either side, might be a challenge. So we'll get another extended review after I've got maybe 1,000 or 1,500 rounds through it, but those are my initial thoughts.